Hi there, everybody. Welcome to Talk and Draw with Patrick Scullin. That's me, Travis Hanson, and our special guest, Clint D Johnson. Welcome, Clint.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me. Happy Monday morning, and here we go. All right.
That's right. Travis and I are having a great time with this. I don't know what we call it, podcast, visual podcast, Talk and Draw. But we love talking to artists, hearing what they're doing, learning more about them. And Clint, you come to us. You're an illustrator, a designer, self-publisher, writer. You have a character you're most known for, Faith Walker.
Yes, sir. Yeah. It's funny. I'm one of those guys where my dad was an artist, and unfortunately, or the way life works, my father passed when I was 4 years old. So we never developed the father-son relationship. You know, Dad and I have never gone to a ball game, fishing, or anything. I seen pictures. He used to pick us up and take us around, so I know there was some connection besides the DNA. You know what I mean? But he was an artist. As I grew and got a little older, my mom and my grandfather would say, you know, your dad could draw, and I was already finding sheets of white paper and running through crayons, creating my own comic books like kids do, but it was passionate. It's something I never let go of. I was the guy who was the cartoonist for the school newspaper and all that stuff. And went to LA Trade Tech, got my hands on some more computer-based skills. I took their digital marketing and Photoshop, and it was just, so long ago. And but I never stopped drawing. And my sister had to remind me that I was a writer, because I'm so busy conjuring up characters and coming up with events, but I never put the handle of writer on me. I said, yeah, I guess so I'm this big gumbo, a whole lot of stuff floating around and trying to make it all taste good.
That's a great description and a great legacy. I'm glad to see you're carrying on the family tradition. That's awesome.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah. And I'm so glad to be here. It's always exciting to be in the presence of other talents that I respect. And respect is a funny word, because we admire other artists for different reasons. Sometimes it's what comes out of the end of the pencil. Sometimes it's their attitude towards it. I mean, there's so many reasons that we enjoy the different artists that we enjoy. So I'm glad to be here, guys. This is really cool. Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. I can already tell this is gonna be an awesome conversation. So we're gonna go ahead and dive right in. Travis, he's gonna lead us off with our drawing subject, and I'll just mention that one of our topics for today is to talk about setting scenes with your art and how to set up an action scene. So Travis, you want to take your turn?
So today we're going to work on a big bad guy, or something ominous and creepy that's going to be coming out at you, possibly from a future project that we might have, or it could be our own favorite bad guy from our own series. So that's what we get to draw today, and we'll share my screen to get us moving. So start with my blank page. And one thing,
no experience drawing bad guys, so
I don't
hard
at all.
for you.
And one thing is that Clint failed to mention, which I really think he should have, is, well, there's two things. One, he does a lot of youth work and with his church and stuff, which I think is absolutely awesome. And two, he was in the music industry.
Yeah. Wow.
So, art from a whole bunch of different perspectives. And I think that just flows into those experiences, definitely flow into artwork and what we produce on paper and stuff, and how we make it, how we make things move forward.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, and like you say, there's lots of influences, and Clint, you said it. We have this mixture of a life's experience and stuff that feeds into it. How does that influence your art, you guys? How does that change the way you draw?
I'll jump on that one. I love it. So as a kid, I had like a lot of cousins who worked for Mattel. So I was the guy who got the new Hot Wheels, the orange race tractor, the cool souped up car.
Wait, can I jump in? Did you ever go to Mattel and test stuff out? Because I used to go all the time when I was a kid. They would have like a little testing deal, and I can remember riding the Green Machine before it came out.
Wow. No, we never tested them. We just got them once they were done.
Well,
I'm like so jealous right now.
They would used to do. They would used to do, what was it called? Like just a test to make sure that it was functional and working. So they would bring in the neighborhood kids, and we would go. So I know exactly where you're talking about, Mattel over there in City of Industry.
Yep, that's the one. That's the one. You know, it was like the equivalent to a Disneyland because you knew what was in there. You know.
Oh yeah.
You know? So my cousins, they, you know, I would get these cool Hot Wheels and cars, and for the life of me, I should have been a car designer because that was my thing. But as life would have it, I'm walking down the street one day in the neighborhood, and somebody had tossed a box of comic books, and I don't ever really remember comic books before this. I think it was like some old Sergeant Rocks and you know, not necessarily the superhero stuff, but they were just comics. And I was like, wow, what is this? And I think my imagination went on overload. And then I found myself trying to create characters and sketching things out. And it's like I never really looked back. So comics was like a real foundation. Second year in college, I studied fashion design. So and now here's the fashion design tie-in. So a lot of the photos that I have of my dad, he was a real snazzy, snappy dresser, or as they would say in the hood, you know, he got swag. You know what I mean? So, that impacted me to the point where I wanted to do clothing, and then I began to draw and create characters. So all these things began to flow together. You know, a flair for fashion, a vivid imagination.
And you are a snappy dresser.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Yeah, I've seen you at enough shows. You definitely got that from your father.
Yeah, that's all dad. Now check this out though, right? So my mom's creative. She never pursued the arts, but she's the type of person, if you give her a house and a few cans of paint, she's gonna totally remodel it. I mean, do not leave her alone in your living room with the budget because she's gonna switch out everything. You know, I'm like, Mom, you know, you should have been Martha Stewart. We have this laugh because she never really promotes herself that way, but it's in her. So I got the creative thing coming from both ends.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think I'm just the one in the family who got smitten enough to want to do something with it. You know, it's there. I got nieces and nephews. They draw. They don't take it seriously, but it's in them. And my sister's a hair designer, so she does all kind of cool things with hair, all the French braids and the locks and all that kind of stuff. She does amazing work. So there's a definite creative gene running through us over here.
That is so cool.
Yeah. Really something.
I can relate to that. Although my grandmothers were the artists, but my parents never did like to draw or paint or anything like that. But the creative gene kind of skipped a generation, I think, in my house.
Came back to you. Yeah.
In our family, it was music. Everybody did music, grandparents and stuff on my dad's side, and then it skipped my generation. Mm-hmm. But on my mom's side, a lot of artists, a lot of people that like to draw. And then I became the black sheep because I decided, well, I liked comics and inking.
Okay.
So I love that passion. So I'm not a painter like they are.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know.
Well, Clint found his comics in a dumpster. Where'd you find yours, Travis?
Actually, my grandma took me to, so it's pretty cool. Clint and I are from the same neighborhood almost. We're pretty close. But I remember in off of 76 across, so La Cienega, they opened up right over the freeway. They opened up a brand new 99-cent store. And I can remember everybody waiting to get those TVs for 99 cents. They had 10 of them. It was the little black and white ones that you probably had to turn with a little wrench or something to change the channel. But there was a Doctor Strange comic that we found. We found a Doctor Strange graphic novel. Now, this was back in the 70s or early 80s. And I remember just being enamored by it, going, this is the coolest thing. And then I got into fantasy and gaming and stuff after that. And pretty soon, you know, it just kind of stuck. I was like, oh, this is different. And you get sidetracked. I mean, I got sidetracked into theater and stuff, but I think everything kind of helps at the end define your style and your art. I mean, if it wasn't for theater, that would never have helped my writing ability in writing stories.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. See that. Yeah. Cool.
I don't know which came first, whether I like to draw or read comics first. I just remember them both being there together from a young age. My grandparents would buy me comics. I'd get them at 7-Eleven. You know, I just loved having them. I do remember my mom throwing out my collection, though, and that was a real significant thing for me. I thought I was going to die.
I would have died.
I came home one day from elementary school, and they were gone, and I was like, what happened to my comics? But
you should tell her. Does she know what they're worth now that she threw away?
Yeah, that's one of our jokes is, Mom, we don't know what you threw away. Those I don't even know what they were, but I have like these characters, you know, stuck in my brain, these action scenes. I've tried to figure out what they were, but they were some sort of, you know, DC team up or something with the Super Friends and Superman and Batman, you know. I don't know. It was one of those. But in any case, you know, comics were a huge influence on me too. I just always wanted to draw comics. And that, you know, kind of dovetails with where I want to go with some of our questions about creating an action scene. You know, how do you decide how to compose your characters? And I think one of the hard things to do is actually put two characters together interacting. And what tips do you guys have?
Okay, so let's take since we're kind of talking about superheroes. You know, I learned something. You know, you have your hero, your champion per se, but the hero is actually only as effective as the villain he has to, you know, bring down. So I begin to understand why the villains appear to be dominant, because it's no big deal if Superman's fighting somebody that looks like Bugs Bunny. Who cares if there's no fight there? But then you got Lex, he's only smarter than us, and richer than us. But other than that, he's a regular guy. But his intellect and the armor or whatever thing he does imposes a greater threat. So in battle scenes, it almost only works if it seems like the hero is facing a bigger or greater threat. Classic David and Goliath. You got the little 17-year-old boy or whatever he was, 12-year-old with a slingshot, taking on a fully armored soldier that everybody's afraid of. He's not supposed to win that battle in a natural respect, but it's a great fight because, you know, he has another superpower working for him, and the threat is obvious. So I think having it where if it's the hero versus villain thing, it always looks cooler if the villain just appears to be more threatening. So maybe the positioning, maybe the villain's closer to the camera, or just in scale, the villain's a little larger than the hero, just for setting things up. I think I trailed off a little bit, but
no, yeah. I think that's absolutely right. I think your hero is only as strong as the challenge or the villain they overcome, right? And
yeah,
like you said, if they're weak, like little Bugs Bunny, that's not a significant challenge. I love that. That's great. Good. You know, David and Goliath is a perfect example. What do you think, Trav?
Well, I think also when you're setting a scene, you have to think a little bit. You know, what people don't realize is, as an artist in a comic book or an artist in whatever, you are the cameraman too. You are the director. You have to create a scene that's going to be engaging. And a lot of times scenes are built, when they're drawn, they're not engaging. They're very flat. The action just doesn't feel like I don't feel a threat. And you want to make the feel of the threat, and that includes facial expressions, it includes body language, it includes, you know, all these certain things. So even here now, drawing this scene, so my big baddie is our nightmare, you know, coming out of the closet, and it has to be relatable. And I think all of us have had nightmares at one time or another, and how they affect us and such. But I wanted it to be overwhelming, but yet our hero down here is like ready to face him off. You know, it's, you hit that point in life where you're like, okay, I can face this fear. I can take this bad guy on. When before you felt maybe I couldn't. And building that scene to fit it is super important, of being able to show all the elements of what these characters are experiencing, because our reader, to a main degree, has no clue what's going on, and they need to feel the fear and the pain or the anger or the happiness or whatever that we're facing. So, you know, in setting this up, you know, I gave the pop of something's happening, but yet at the same time, I'm looking at, I set up a series of guidelines to kind of make sure things float. And when I'm building my scene, I want to make sure that I usually, and I kind of did it backwards, but I will build my room first, or build my location first, and then fill the characters in so that they fit correctly. But I'm going with a little bit more cartoon feel, so I went backwards.
Well, and how do you choose the moment to capture? You know, like you said, there's that sweet spot just before, or like just when it's really bad, and just before the hero can act. You know, how do you pick that moment in time?
Well, I think that depends on the script or the direction that you're given in the picture. You know, what do you need to convey? And for me, sometimes it's like, well, what do I need to convey? Do I need to show that the character is winning, that there's hope, or do I need to make it where there's not a hope at the moment, that they're losing their battle and they're frustrated? If some scripts are very drawn out, show this, show this, show this, show this, and they explain everything where it needs to go. And then as the artist, you need to fill in those blanks a little bit, but sometimes you're not given blanks to fill in. While other times you got free reign, and that's, I guess, where it's important to start looking at reference. How do they do stuff in a movie? How do they, you know, where does that inspiration come? And some of the best stuff, for me, if you watch Batman Begins, there's that opening scene where Batman, not the opening scene, but there's that scene where Batman takes on the bad guys for the first time, and he's in the docks, and they've got all the containers. And that's probably one of the most visually powerful scenes I've ever watched in a superhero movie, because you don't see anything, but you hear everything. And yet the camera angles are dynamic and fluid and stuff. So, you know, it's approaching it the same way. So this is, yeah, here's my bad guy, Nightmare Clyde. And then here's my hero down here, getting ready to face his fear.
Well, I think adding the little sister there.
That's a teddy bear down there. Yeah.
Oh, teddy bear. I was gonna say, you know, increases the drama a little bit. You know, they've got something to protect. They've got backup. What do you think, Clint?
I think so too. I like what he did, because it's a room, like when you see the lamp and the you know, the dresser drawer to the side, he offers a familiar environment, even with this really crazy creature coming through the door, the window. And so he puts you in a place like, oh, I can identify with where these, you know, where the characters are, and then what's going on, you know. So that's nice, because there's that sense of like, oh, I get it, you know. So that's cool. Good stuff.
Well, let's jump over to Clint.
Oh, do I know how to do this? You want me to hit the button again?
I'm going to hit stop share, and then you get to hit the button again. All right. So we got this. All right. Ready? 1, 2, 3, boom. All right. There we go.
Did I do it? Did I do it?
And I hope so.
I see Travis. I don't see me. Hold on.
That's okay. Share your screen. We'll get it.
Okay. Here we go. Training wheels. Clint. Okay. Easy as riding a bike, except art. Okay, so you guys can see me. Oh, you see?
Oh yeah, we see the art.
Okay.
As much as I like looking at you, I'm enjoying this even more.
I would hope so. You know, all that commentary, I'm gonna leave all that alone. So
let's look at your approach here. You know, where are we going for?
Okay, so what I do, and I'm kind of vibing off what we're talking about. In essence, this character here, this is my main villain. and I'm kind of I draw really loose in the beginning. I know some guys go in and do all the super details. I will labor until it kind of looks like what I think it's going to look like, kind of loose, and then I go back in. This in the background is going to be another villain attempting to attack, because I don't think villains are friends. I don't think outside of them having a common goal, I think they are actually at odds with one another. That's part of one story I'm writing.
So you don't see a Legion of Doom?
I see a Legion of Doom, but they're like trying to get each other as soon as they can. You know, okay, now that Superman is down, I'm going to cut off Lex's head, right? So
it's stab each other in the back.
Exactly. Because if not, they're not very, I don't believe villains have loyalty, because I think they are about whatever their personal objective may be. If it's world domination, or let's say COVID was a disease, or if COVID was a literal villain. Is there an alliance? Not really. And
take us all down.
You know, it may team up with another villain, like, hey, let's make them cough. But it'll take over a villain to the point where I'm going to cough and I'm going to affect your respiratory. I'm going to align with you until I take over you too. So I believe it's that type of thing. And
it's gonna join with the Murder Hornets, and we saw how well that combo went. Isn't that funny?
Well, you know what? The Murder Hornets have taken a back seat. They flew away. You know?
They're like, yeah, this is too much. We're out.
We didn't sign up for this. The humans aren't paying any attention to us. We're out. Right? So, but I think, like what I was thinking earlier this morning, in character development, let's teach some classes. I wouldn't let the kids draw until they could give me an outline of what their characters represented, meaning what are the personality traits of your character? Does your hero or villain or supporter, do they like pizza? What's their favorite color? I wanted the student to have a sense of, why does this character exist? What's the character's purpose? Because I think from an artist's perspective, we may have it somewhere deep down in our minds, but we don't always think it out. Okay, this character is the purple people eater, but why? And so, I think the characters that have strong themes tend to be more successful characters. My favorite rogues gallery of villains are Batman's characters, hands down.
Yeah.
They're all very theme conscious, theme sensitive. And from a writer's perspective, they're easier to do because you know what their objectives are,
Well, Dr. Freeze is one of the best. I mean, They took a very C-level character, and when the animated series came out, they gave him so much more emotional depth that you ended up almost at times rooting for him. I mean, he was so well done.
Yeah. I think the best characters, you quote unquote feel them, whether you agree with them or not. You can go, oh, okay, that makes sense. You don't have to agree with it, but you get it. And,
right, you see their point of view.
Right, and I think that creates a greater tension when the hero has to come and say, man, you can't do this. You're going to jail. Especially if you think about the endless relationship between Batman and Joker. We still don't know why Joker does what he does, but we know why Bruce does what he does. And when they try to communicate, I have yet to read a story where I feel solid about the Joker's motives, because they write him on a slant, and maybe that's what it is. He's crazy. Where Batman is trying to make sense of everything. He's trying to put things back in alignment. That's his whole job. Okay, something was taken from him, and he's trying to, put it all back in order. And then his arch nemesis seems to be just driven on the strength of chaos. So that type of thing.
Well, I'm always curious how, a lot of that, like you said, comes in the writing, but how do we infuse that into the art so the visual says that?
Yeah. Okay. So I like so it goes back to the concept, and then maybe the character we talked about now. When you think about the Joker, you either think about playing cards, or you think about a jester, or some type of clown, obviously. So visually, his name dictates his look. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe not his powers or his abilities, but his look is definitely dictated by his name, because we wouldn't call him the Joker and he's wearing like an Armani suit carrying a briefcase. Or if he does, he's going to wear a purple suit with a green tie. And then, it's that type of thing. So going back to the Mr. Freeze character, and I'm one of those guys. I'm still on a cool kick. What does that mean? As a kid, I loved Arthur Fonzarelli. Teenager, I was into Morris Day and the Time. So just I think Iceman and the X-Men is one of the most underutilized characters. So all of that. But the theme is there. There's so much you can do with a character who controls the molecules in the air. He has a way to impact water and have it, to become solid, and it even impacted his personality. Very cold and withdrawn, but as you say, if you get deeper into him, it's because of a loss. There's a pain, so something literally froze over in him. And if we as artists, it becomes our job from a visual perspective to show that we have to put a face on what the writer wants the audience to feel.
Yeah. That's the best description I've ever heard of Iceman. I love it.
Yeah.
He just wants to be loved.
Yeah, pretty much. He doesn't want to be cold. See, it's that. He's cold and he doesn't want to be.
Yeah.
It's like Aquaman wanting to feel like he belongs.
Yeah, poor guy.
Well, I do think that is a key to sometimes it's a key to comedy, but also to drama, is that their inherent strength is somehow a weakness.
Right.
And they're tied together. They have to be connected somehow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think also when you're trying
Aquaman's afraid of water.
That is funny. But I also think when you're drawing these characters, you have to be willing to be loose, especially when trying to convey emotion. And that's going to be the importance of understanding anatomy and how the figure works and how the face works and all these other things. I mean, you can be a cartoonist and show the exact same emotions as an oil painter. It's all how you know how to play with the muscles in the body. And I think that's important when you're drawing the Joker or when you're drawing Freeze. Your role as the artist is, how do I convey the crazy or the emotion or the pain or the suffering or whatever that they're facing. And that's where you would use shadow. That's where you use, line weights. You change your line weights. You show teeth. You snare. And having a quick reference of, facial expressions is kind of crucial, and even body language is important too. I mean, we're looking at Clint's, and you're drawing your character. He's muscular and stuff like that, but you're also giving him a feel that he is something to be reckoned with. He's strong, and you want to keep that character design clean. There's a great character design in Batman the Animated Series, which I'm going to go back to, and that was Jarvis. The Mad Hatter. Mm-hmm. And you can see when you look at his face, he's not all there together, and yet he could still pass for a normal person if he needed to, but there's always something off. And the animators and the artists, the layout designers, and stuff like that, did such a great job on building that character, his design-wise, that he comes off really creepy. Scarecrow's another one.
Right.
That has that same vibe where you're like, okay, you see them regular, and then when they start putting on the mask and they make it scary and they change the line weights around and they add all this little extra detail, it gets a lot more wild and a lot more like unnerving. And I think that's the key for illustrators, is how do we make something that I take you out of your comfort zone to feel an emotion or to feel a scene or to build something that's going to make you walk away and go, that bothered me.
Wow. Yeah. It's powerful. Yeah. Because, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, so tell us more about this dude.
So This guy, this is Snakeskin. Okay, Snakeskin made his first appearance in the actual first full-blown Faith Walker comic book. So this was back in '98. I had written the play and had met some people who believed enough in the play where we rented out a theater in Los Angeles, actually Inglewood, and he was the main villain. Well, the setup of Faith Walker is, he's very, very much a spiritual, biblically based character, so thus the name Faith. Well, he needed a villain that posed a threat. So this is Snakeskin. Snakeskin is everything that Faith Walker isn't, and then some. They could be the flip side of the coin. So this guy, he's dark, he's evil, he's a manipulator, he's a fierce combatant, trained warrior, all that good stuff that makes for a good villain, except his soul is lost. And his whole thing is he wants to make sure everyone else loses their soul while he's at it. So we put him in an environment, because back in the 90s is when this guy first came around. There was a lot of the publicizing of, war on crime, war on drugs, a lot of inner city turmoil. And so I pretty much set him up not so much as a kingpin, but definitely as a leader of a lot of the madness. He was keeping track of how the drugs were being sold and how many kids were being, brought into a gang lifestyle. So he had a lot to do with it, or at least that's the environment he thrived in. Faith Walker, at this point, was very new to the city, and they had never met. And so it was your classic light versus darkness. So this guy's dark. The new book that I'm working on, Faith Walker Genesis, I go a lot into his origin as well as Faith Walker's background. But classic villain, really mean guy, easy to hate. I deliberately I don't have a lot of redeeming qualities about him, because I don't want people to like him. He's not the villain you parade around and go, oh, he's cool. No, he's not, So I don't want the Darth Vader effect on this guy where we like him.
Honestly, I sometimes have a problem with trying to make villains redeemable. I don't know. I understand that a little bit, but it's like the Joker movie bothered me a little bit. I hate seeing the villain get too much attention. I'm just a traditional hero guy, I guess.
Yeah. Now I understand circumstances. I mean, because life happens. But I think for the stories in this field, for the stories to work, I'm of the attitude, let the villain be the villain. Because we have so much, or a couple of years back, there was so much of the anti-hero thing going. So the more of a bad guy the hero was, the more popular the hero became. I have a problem, me personally, with that narrative. So you're gonna save me one day, but you might slit my throat tomorrow, depending upon how you feel when you wake up, because whatever moved you. I get guys like Punisher. It took me a long time to like the Punisher, because I didn't get it. And it's like, oh, once I understood his psychological profile, he's hero nor villain, yet he's more hero than villain,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
Well, would you mind zooming out a bit? We could see the whole scene for a second. Yeah. So
I'm putting a lot of time. And it's stiff. You know how we are. We never celebrate our own work. I'm really not celebrating just yet. So this is Snakeskin, and then I'm not sure what this is going to be. Probably another villain in their reality. The town is called Los Cosmos, and every villain or nemesis is based on some type of spiritual deficiency. So a thief would be a villain, a liar would be a villain, a murderer would be a villain, and from that perspective, it's easier, and easy is the right word. It's easier to create and visualize the villain if you can link them to something solid, concrete, or tangible. And that's probably why I like Batman's Rogues Gallery so much, because you can technically identify with every villain. It's not like we created something way out there and weird, and people are scratching their heads trying to figure out what you're talking about. So yeah.
That sounds like a fascinating storyline. So just for a second, do you want to tell people how they can read it?
Sure. So right now, people are interested in anything that I have. The best place to go is christianactionheroes.com. And on that link, you would go /shop. And I have a collection of Faith Walker titles and other related titles. The Faith Walker Collected is kind of where Travis and I hooked up, and actually I picked his brain. So because it was a Kickstarter, we had taken like 5 episodes that I had done over the years, and put those in one book, and then we did another book called Faith Walker and the First Watch, which was him in more of an Avengers Justice League type setting with some of the other heroes in his universe. The book that I'm talking about now, Faith Walker Genesis, if I act like I really want it to happen, it'll be ready sometime in August. So yeah,
Well, I got a question for you.
Uh-huh.
You have such an interesting subject, and even sometimes in today's world, it's not a popular subject. What made you go this route? I enjoy it. I just think you really are taking a unique route that doesn't always get looked a lot. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying. I have those who don't understand. I have those who it's a disdain. I have those that are just good old fashioned haters, and I have those that are just absolute non-believers. So Clint at 26, 27 years old. I was that young guy, like a lot of young guys are. I'm hanging out at the clubs and going out, hey, meeting Sally, Susie, Betty, and that was just the lifestyle. Got sick of it. It was just like, I can't live like this. My mom, invited me to church, and it was church over in Inglewood, and the pastor, Bishop Wayne Davis, was preaching a sermon, and this was back when your Pentecostal, evangelical, Church of God in Christ, all that offshoot, they were wearing robes as if they were, popes and cardinals and all that. That was the end thing. And so this guy's preaching, and whatever he said to me resonated. I mean, really, really resonated. So I'm like, wow, okay, because the sermon would be something that Stan Lee would have written if he were writing a Christ-based character, using all the right scripture punchlines, and so it was that. So the influence just really cascaded over me. Now keep in mind, I'm still the Batman comic book loving guy.
Right.
So I see this guy up here with his robe on, no disrespect. He's preaching up a storm. I'm like, wow. So my mind goes, well, how come superheroes don't, quote scriptures to fight bad guys? Because this book is the ultimate source of written light that we have. And I was like, wow. And I couldn't shake the idea. And so I grabbed, sheet of paper as we do, and I'm sketching out an idea. Didn't know what it was going to be, but the hand started moving because the concept was there. How about a hero who quotes Bible passages, or, like I am more than a conqueror, or, I have the victory, and so on, while he's fighting bad guys. Had an old, I'll say client. She's actually a mentor. She's still here. A lady named Annie Pierce. She was putting out a newspaper, a little tabloid in LA, back in 1990, and it was called the Community Circle Clipper. And I did some work for her years ago, and she let me do another thing I was doing, more kind of females in outer space with laser guns, but I kind of outgrew them. So her name is Annie. I said, Annie, look, I got this cool idea. And she's like, what you got, Clint? And I showed her the Faith Walker concept. She says, okay, you can have a slot in my paper. We come out every 2 weeks. I said, really? She said, really? She was so happy that I was doing something so much more redeemable than the girls in space that she was happy to give me a slot. And I never looked back. I started creating this thing, putting myself on a deadline. That was new. Every 2 weeks, Clint, you got to have something in the newspaper. And it just took off from there. So with me, becoming a believer, and the way my mind was wired, I could see the passages, the statutes, the things that we believe. I see them fleshed out as characters. So that right there is just how my mind works. And I've been fortunate enough, blessed enough to get out here and do some things and impact some lives, share some light, you know? So
I love that. I love seeing these two things come together because, you know, faith is a very important thing to me in my life. And to be honest, I do some of my best sketching in church.
I believe you. That's funny.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I think we all get that one. Yeah. You know,
everybody looks at you. What are you doing? Well, I'm paying attention. I promise.
Yeah.
I'm just drawing what he's talking about.
Well, but you guys know the people who don't draw, they don't understand that we can do this because we've been doing it forever. I can hear you. I don't have to miss a beat. I can hear you and not stop drawing and fully divulge the conversation. And a lot of people, no, I hear you. Keep talking. We're good. You know.
Well, I love too, like you said, just putting out something positive in today's world. You know, it's more important than ever, and I think that's probably why for me, I'm just so kind of simple-minded that I just love the hero to win. I'm tired of stories where the hero we have to deal with the hero's flaws and everything. You know, I'm just give me straight up Superman with, just he's a good guy and that's enough.
That's enough. Yeah. You know, we don't need all the, well, he used to be, or what's even worse, he starts off good and life just takes a chunk out of him and now he's the worst supervillain ever. Those stories are heartbreaking for me. I'm like, wow, they didn't, or let's do this. You have a great character like, the Shazam version of Captain Marvel. I'm kind of old school. I grew up with him. I'm kind of partial. They don't know what to do with him. And it's so disgusting. Like, you guys have a great character. We know he's not Superman, but nowadays everybody can do what Superman does. So the powers are not even the issue anymore. And they still don't. Even after the movie, I thought the movie was amazing, by the way.
Yeah.
And they still don't know what to do with him. He shouldn't be dark and gritty. They should play the wisdom card a little bit more because it's there. Have some shut-off switch when Billy the kid doesn't get it and Solomon pops up. That's cool, but they don't do enough of it. I would write him so different. I really would.
That's true.
Yeah.
Hey, well, you guys want to see a little bit of what I got?
Yeah, sure. We need to see what you got.
I've been enjoying just listening to you guys right now, but I do have a little doodle to share.
So do I hit stop share now?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
And then we'll come back and see everybody's goodies.
Let's see what we got going on here.
Here's your big baddie.
So this is my super siblings characters. So basically, for those that don't know, it's a brother and sister that have superpowers, but they don't know that they each have a secret identity and they have become rivals. So the little sister is the evil one and the brother is the good guy.
This from personal experience?
Don't tell my sister. She was the pesky little sister, right? So we had our rows when we were little, but this one is all kind of tongue-in-cheek and they have fun. I like to play with the idea, kind of like Superman. They could never recognize that Clark Kent was Superman. I always thought it would be funny to have the two kids go home and not recognize each other. But she has a terrible scream and he's got like Boy Scout Superman powers.
So basically she's Banshee.
That's her name. Yep. And he's Scout.
You took him from a Marvel character.
No. Banshee and Marvel's dumb. I just like the word Banshee.
I'm sorry. I'm just giving you grief.
No, she has a debilitating scream. And like I said, he's a Boy Scout, so his name's Scout. And I haven't had a chance really to flesh out the stories, but I have a few scripts where we actually find out that their powers came from their grandparents.
Oh, nice.
Grandma and Grandpa were two were a hero and a villain that didn't know each other and wound up getting married, kind of like Batman and Catwoman getting married, but they didn't know that they were rivals too. So they have this legacy that plays into their story. So yeah, I typically do this kind of a thing with them on the cover of the comic where they're about ready to duke it out. So she also is kind of like a ghost, so she kind of zooms in, and so he can't really like hit her because she can. So they have this play back and forth. So right now I kind of work like you, Clint, where I try to really rough out the positioning, and takes me a little while to decide how I want the gesture and the pose, but I'm feeling pretty good about this. It's kind of like the anticipation of their, you know, who's going to hit who first or what's going to happen.
It's cool though.
Such violence in between siblings.
Yeah. I like how fluid, I like how he's rearing back and, you know, she's like swishing through the air. It's cool because there's a lot of fluidity there. It's nice.
Thanks. So it's been fun. It's 10 years old now, believe it or not.
Wow.
Kind of crazy. Now it's kind of in comic book form. I try to do at least one comic a year with it, and I would have had the new one here at Comic-Con, but that's not happening. So
yeah. we can all hope for 21, right? So.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not saying anything.
The world is different.
Yeah.
You know, there's that one phrase that you want to just say, but you know, if you do, it will be. I'm just not saying nothing. Can't get any.
Yeah.
Well, how about one final question, you guys, and then we'll kind of do a round robin and say our goodbyes, because we've had a good conversation, but I know our time is running short.
Well, definitely, and we want to see where everybody ended up too. So,
yeah. So I guess my last official question is, where do you get your ideas? You know, how do you surprise yourself with something new?
That's tricky because your question, how do you surprise yourself with something new? How do you answer that question?
Well, that's why I asked it.
I think, well, for me, it's like an aha moment. I probably wasn't thinking about it. It shows up. I find now, I'll watch a good movie or I'll have a good conversation, something that has to stimulate the intellect. And then I go, oh, that's nice. And you know, I try not to go the route of anything remotely plagiaristic. I don't know if that's the word, but you guys know what I mean. But we're inspired, and that's the whole thing. I have a good friend of mine, he's into music. He says, Clint, creativity begots creativity. Wow. So Travis has his own fantasy realm, and it's like, okay, Travis pushes me to want to be a world builder because he has incredible backdrops that help tell the story that he's telling. So the characters and their quote unquote reality are not one dimensional. So I glean from stuff like that. I used to be a big Boris Vallejo fan and Gustave Doré, guys like that. So the sheer fantasy aspect of what they do, I go, wow, because I couldn't stop the rush that I would get from their work. There are not a lot of comic artists that I'm into these days because I'm just not into it like I used to be. Probably back in my heyday, it would have been a comic would just give me all this inspiration, and you know, and I would say movies, but not superhero movies, because the superhero movies are rehashed comics. Again, you know, they're taking a slant on something that already exists. So I was inspired over the last weekend. For the first time in my life, I saw Keanu Reeves as John Wick. You know, I saw John Wick 1 and 2. And what it did, it drove me back to the concept of world building. And I had all kind of ideas just from watching that film, you know. So it creeps up in different ways. You know?
Yeah, it's almost like you can't force it. You just got to kind of set the table for it. You got to invite it in, but you can't make it happen.
Yeah.
Oh, what an interesting question. You know, I think a lot of it depends on the older you get, I think the more calloused you become towards things. And it gets harder and harder to go, how do I look back at that child within me that could do anything, that was just, you'd step away and you'd go, oh, wow. And you'd see these great, you know, I saw Star Wars when I was 7 years old or 6 years old, I can't remember, in the back seat of a green station wagon at in the drive-in.
Drive-in? Wow.
In a drive-in. But that whole summer, that's all we played was Star Wars, you know, in our neighborhood. And there was something about it that was just, you know, and I can remember a couple of summers where my brother and I, my mom made us capes and masks, and we were Batman and Robin, and you know how the universe just hits at the right moment. And we had all these kids there in the playground one summer. And what did we play for 3 hours? 1960s Batman and Robin. And it was awesome. I mean, must have been 40 kids. And because my brother and I had the capes and masks, we were automatically Batman and Robin. So that worked out in our favor. And, you know, and so now as I get older, I realize, okay, what do I need to do, or how do I need to change internally so that I can still be amazed, so I can still see things differently, so I can still see the magic that's out there, that beautiful gift that we were all given of imagination. And so this last little while, I'm starting to look at, since I've been drawing for everybody else, I've kind of stopped drawing for me. And then I realized, okay, I've got to make some changes. So now I started drawing for me, and I'm just like going back to that fantastic, whimsical feel. When we had Lucas Elliott on, he introduced me to a whole new brush style. And when we share screens again, you'll see the new brush style. And it's different, and I love it. And all of a sudden, I'm feeling invigorated again, which I haven't felt in a long time. And so this has been really, you know, I think being willing to experiment and play and look beyond the box and maybe look at life around you, watching kids play, kind of helps take away that jadedness that we've created as adults, because we're really good at creating boxes as adults.
Wow.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Good stuff.
Well, I'm going to sign off here and pass the ball to Travis and see what you got.
Yeah. It says, okay, here we go. On a desktop. You don't want to see. You see it?
Yeah, nice.
Nice.
You know, and you know, I had a lot of fun. So you can tell the brush is a little bit rougher. I use that textured brush in there.
I see it in the background too.
For the inks. And then so I'm starting to play with, you know, I'm starting to see a whole nother level of where I can go. So I'm still growing. I'm almost 50 years old and I can still grow. And I think that's important in art.
Yeah, you never want to just stay stagnant. You gotta be willing to change, learn new stuff.
You know, and I mean, for me, I found one of my biggest issues, and it's not anybody's fault. It's just because what I go around with. I have 5 little blonde towheads that run around, so I don't get to draw diversity a lot in my comics because I'm living with 5 little towheads. And so now I'm working at, how do I change that? How do I make it correct? And so I based my character off I went to grammar school with Nia Long.
Huh.
And she sat next to me in 5th grade, and she was a tough girl. And I remember, so I based this character off of her.
Nice.
You know, a lot of respect for her. Yeah, but I just wanted to do something just different. So this gave me a chance to do something different. All right, let's jump over to Clint.
Okay, so here we go. I press screen and come on, let's do this.
There we go. You got it.
Okay, and then here's that's not what I want to see. And here we go.
Hey, I love the penguin.
Well, see, but there I go with that cool concept thing, right? To me, a penguin is a bird who lives near the ice and he rocks a tuxedo. That's how I think. So yeah.
You know, I want you to know that I purposely draw my penguins in the North Pole all the time with polar bears. And I know that they don't belong together, but they're just too cool not to.
Yeah. So this is where we are so far with snakeskin.
I love this. This is great.
Yeah. Still loose, stiff. You know, I'm apologizing. You know how I don't like what I see, but that's okay. Yeah. So
don't apologize.
Trying to get my hand back to where when I draw him fighting the Faith Walker character, it's gonna flow. As villains go, he plays a major role in the hero becoming the hero. So he's important to the storyline. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I like that. I like where you've gone with that.
Yeah, and I like the composition too, with the other character kind of surrounding him.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. It's cool.
Yeah, that's good stuff, brother.
It's working.
Thank you. Wow. So do I need to stop my thing again?
Yeah, go ahead, and then I'll do one last view of the Super Siblings.
Aren't you done?
Yeah, I'm totally done.
I just wanted to make sure, yeah.
I'm so slow, Trav. Trav can draw like 10 finished pieces of art in my one.
Yeah. He's got that Barry Allen gene in him.
Yeah, he is the Flash. Yeah, this is probably going to turn into a cover at some point for.
Nice.
Well, I can't wait to see that.
One of my new stories. But
you never answered the question that you gave both of us.
Oh well, I guess thinking back for me, there is something to setting the table, and it's a little bit like alchemy for me. It's putting the circumstances in the right place. Whether it's, I have this kind of OCD thing where maybe my desk has to be clear, or I have to put things away for a little bit, or I have to clean something, and then I have to be doing some other activity, watching a movie, going for a walk, things like that help me come up with new ideas. Definitely life's experience does too, because if I ever get in a rut and I feel like I'm just repeating myself too much, I have to go on some sort of a visual safari to just kind of break that. And like you said earlier, Clint, getting inspired by other art, whether it's visual art, music, movies, anything, can really feed my creativity. I'm a sponge, and whatever's going on in my life somehow finds a way in to what I'm drawing.
Yeah.
And I can't help it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a very good answer, but I'm going to weasel out.
You know what I like what you just said? You said you can't help it. I love that. It's because that's the way it really goes. I do a lot of poetry, and the poems are definitely wherever I am at that moment.
Yeah.
They're right there. If I'm hurting, the poem sounds like it. If I'm happy, the poem sounds like it. If I'm disgusted with what's happening in the news, the poem sounds like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How that works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting you bring up writing, because I've never thought of myself as a writer, but during the quarantine and stuff, I've actually started writing a lot. And I've always resisted like a journal and stuff like that. But honestly, it's kind of good to write things down sometimes. Mm-hmm. And like you said, I don't want anyone to ever read what I've written. But you got to get those feelings out sometimes.
Well, Clint makes a great point. We put so much of our emotion into our stories and our artwork and such. We're experienced by life, and we all bring something different to the table on how we visualize it and see it and use our emotions. And I think that's crucial. We've been brought up, so much in a lifestyle where we've been told, don't cry, suck it up,
Yep.
be tough, whatever.
Tough it out.
And yet I'm starting to learn, the more I draw and the more I start to be truthful with my emotions in my illustrations, the more I actually find a release, the more peace I find, and how crucial that's been for me. So yeah, and you can tell. People will go, "Hey, Trav, are you feeling okay when I post something?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, I kind of feel okay because I finally got it out. I'm feeling better now. Don't worry about it. Let's move on to the next part."
Yeah.
But
Well,
but you made the deal about not having people read what you write, or later on, maybe when they're dead. I think it's important because you never know who in your future will go through something similar, and it's going to be because of what you wrote now. They'll realize that they're not alone.
Yeah,
They
true.
experience the same thing.
Right. Art has a way of what's the word I want to use? Art has a way of bringing comfort, especially when it's birthed from something that you've actually been through. We can be in pain, and we can see a piece of work that can calm us down, or there's a healing factor. Um, and I think what it is, because in order to create art, there's your key. You have to create it. And when you create, you're reformatting, or you're taking something from nothing and you're building. Um, there's a calming effect, or it's just the flip side. You know, with the right color palette and some crazy looking you can set a riot off with a piece of art. So art is powerful. Oh my goodness. It just like the music, music influences. Oh, those are great lyrics. None of your friends like the song because they didn't hear it the way you heard it, so it's that type of thing.
Well, and actually, people don't realize art is more powerful than any long written post or any quick sign or anything else, because you're able to pull other emotions into that piece, and you can layer it in such a way that it's like a parable. People get what they want out of that visual parable, and some people get the basic thing, and then some people have the knee-jerk reaction, and then the gut reaction, and then and it can go, it's like, deeper and deeper and deeper.
Right.
And they don't realize it. It's discredited a lot, and yet it is probably the most powerful teaching tool out there to get emotion across.
And use that power for good and not for evil, right?
Yeah. Well, Travis, that's a powerful point, because all three of us, we're gonna sometime soon sit down at our tables, whether we're working for a client or working for ourselves. This conversation sort of almost refocuses, if not repurposes, why we do what we do, aside from having the ability. The ability is one thing, but what are you using it for tends to be everything,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Wow, this is powerful, you guys. I mean, I feel like I owe you guys money for this art therapy.
Oh, okay, so look, I'll give you my Cash App. I have a Cash App. It's ready to go.
Send it to PayPal. Orders at PayPal.
Yeah, this is deep, guys. I appreciate it. I need to hear this today. This is good. But it is probably time for us to wrap up. So thank you for your time. This has been fun. I hope everyone has learned something from it.
Oh, I love being on with Clint. Anytime that I get to hang out with you, brother.
Yeah, man, always nothing but love. This is good stuff. I don't know how often you guys do this, or how I can read it or get it online. Send me whatever info. I'm inspired because I woke up today trying to find reasons why not to do this.
Well, actually, the cool thing about it is we try to do one once a week, sometimes two, and we post it it started off as an accident. It kind of like Patrick and I just going, well, we needed to do something. And, it's actually, there's moments where I do the same thing. I'm like, I'm too busy for this. I've got too much going on. And then I get on And then we talk, and then I realized, oh my gosh, I needed this more for me than anything else. And you know, if 10 people watch it, fine. If 100 people, I don't really care. What the fact is walking away today, I'm like, okay, I needed that. I feel a little bit lighter. I've got a little bit more inspiration. I know what I want to draw next. And so yeah, once a week we'll give you the links and everything else, and definitely we want you back on.
Oh yeah. Hey, look, hey, just you know, put me the little couch in the corner. You know what I mean? I'll bring my own goodies, and hey, we can hang out.
Yeah.
All I can say is amen.
But the nice thing about it, and to be honest, is like I said, there's enough garbage in the world today, and we wanted to create a podcast that didn't focus on that. And
that's right.
How do you rise above it? And so this has been good for us.
Yeah, this is good. Food for the soul.
Very much so, with a little art to go with it.
There we go. There we go. All right, gentlemen, I appreciate and really do. Patrick, hey man, great meeting you.
Yes, sir.
This is fun. I learned what buttons to click on Zoom. And I had a chance to spend the morning with some other talented guys. Oh, this was amazing. And the day set. Now I can go conquer. This is it.
Well, Patrick,
I'm going to end it off. So thank you again. Signing off.